Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to the Blessed Block and Change the Lock Chronicles. Today we have the 10-second block. It only took me 10 seconds. Now, let me just prelude this by saying some things that are important, and I'll tell some of the germane details as I go. There is a reason I'm single. And you know who explained it? Because I'm going to take this moment to promote. Y'all need to see Miss Kiana Footman on the last episode of Noir Aunties with your Auntie D and your Auntie Love. It'll be in the description. She freed me to understand what it was I've been doing and why I am hard single. Not,
Well, it's because you're 43 post-wall and fat.
no. It's because for the last 27 years, without consciously understanding what she said, I have been defending the position. And she said, now I look at people being in my default. And if when you watch this video, I wish that I had the grace of person and the ability to stay as calm in the face of foolery. You know, she did say she'd go to the other side, but it's the grace. It's a gift to her. And I don't have that gift. But she talked about her experiences not knowing as a young woman and men bringing her fear, resentment, and problems. And her story and Auntie Love's story about what Black women go through when men get them pregnant and abandon them. Promises made and then promises lost. The devastation. So today, Miss Footman looks at a man and says, "Do you fit my default? I'm not trying to fit in yours." Auntie Love talk about this man talk about I want to have a baby with you, and just a few months later turn around talking about I don't want anything with you. Yeah, or the baby. So when you try to fit in someone else's default who doesn't give a darn about you, that's what happens. So finally, what women decide to do is that if they are wise and if they are free, they realize, okay, what is my square, and I'm going to stand in it. I was blessed in the sense that I was raised by, I thought about this. I spent a lot of the last several days, 2 days after Noir Aunties, that helped me just kind of writing down, okay, what, all the stuff that I've kind of walked by unconsciously and just writing it down and looking at it. I was raised by basically a holy Christian knight, and Solid Sergeant Love is a holy Christian knight. Basically, they would fit into that European classifications. If you looked at the African American spiritual and you talked about I'm a soldier in the army of the Lord, they would fit into that classification. They're both veterans. And most of the men around me, they may be secular. I have some unsaved friends. I have some good friends who are different religions, if you will. And I have some friends who are civilians. But if you look at them, they kind of follow that same pattern because on the other side, my dad and Sergeant Love are like decade-long community soldiers and work hard for their families and the people that they love long term. There's no break in that. There's no irresponsible period where they decide to get to a certain age and sow their wild oats. There's nothing there like that. So that's been my default. And from age 16, the other thing that I have noticed is that I was pushed, literally shoved into someone else thought I should marry. A very deep first friendship that was a model for many of the others. Literally, the people in my community thought it was cool to get together and shove us into each other. It ruined our friendship because he thought I rejected him. I didn't reject him as a person. We're still friendly. I love his wife. She is a wonderful person. And they're doing the darn thing all these years later. But that memory came back up because a Black woman's not allowed to have a default. Well, I've ruthlessly had a default for 27 years. And this was the incident that let me know I was not going to marry into a community, even though I couldn't have said it aloud then, that thought that was cool. So then we come to the 10-second block, because unfortunately, what that also means is I have absolutely no patience for a bunch of things, because I know what my default is. If you miss major keys on that, You don't get any kind of chance, which gets us to the 10-second block. I was minding my own self business out there, and like Auntie Love said, I know I'm cute. I know that there are black men who come on this channel and got blocked, but I hope you get the help that you need. Sweetheart, the help that I need is what? You also got the 10-second block. Block, I got the help that I need. Block, strong blockhead. And if this one isn't working well, I got another one. And look, y'all, check it out. If something happens to my hands, let's see if I can get this foot up here. See, no, it won't come through on the camera. But look, I got 20 digits to do the strong block. That was the help I needed, and I used it. But I know that I'm cute because I'm out here walking around in my neighborhood having dropped 30 pounds, planning to drop about, Papa D drop about 30 more at least before I can even kind of slow it down a little bit. So I'm out here walking around. And again, and I'm not interested in cultures of people that think a black woman at a young age should be shoved into a marriage anyway. It is germane, although Sergeant Love is black, and Frank was too, and also the musician and the Creole, for all five of the early ones. The one who used me as a beard, five. I did my best. I did. But subconsciously, Sergeant Love is the least acculturated because the oldest, like the modern society. And then Frank and the Creole had done their best to purge themselves of the foolery of society. That's why they got considered in retrospect. This gentleman did not have that problem. I was at my library, increasing my knowledge base. First time hanging out in a library since COVID. This was like coming home to me. And I heard this amazing voice. And y'all know, I love a bass voice. My father is a tenor, so of course, who's kind of gone toward baritone with age. But I don't discriminate against men based on it, but I love a bass voice. And you put a bass voice on a hard floor in a library with a high roof, like we a lot of these houses have in San Francisco. That voice, even quiet, just filled up that space. So I went and I gave him a compliment. Sir, do you know that you have a beautiful bass voice? Y'all, he stood up. He was tall, handsome, bass voiced, and white even. Because, well, white men get respect that brothers don't know. No, he got the 10-second block. Now, let me tell you how it happened. He was at least 55. So I have a lot of expectations of men at that big age. And one of them is if a woman comes and talks to you, don't completely fall into a blabbering idiot. You got to have your life intellectually and emotionally together so that a compliment. And here's the reason why. You should be settled in who you are, whatever it is, by age 55. Because if you basically acted like you got a cocaine hit off that one compliment, you're going to want that hit again. That means you're not getting enough support in the rest of your life. So who's going to be burdened with that? Me. And so you have your friend there. And the friend says, don't encourage him. I'm like, what is this, middle school? Guess what, y'all? It only took 10 seconds. Nope, he does not fit my default. My dad, Sergeant Love, Creole, um, the musician, and even the one using me as the beard way back then were all men stable enough in themselves that they just did not need that level of of companionship. They weren't going to have friends around them that openly did not want them to get compliments. You're 55-ish. You still have people hanging around you that get mad when something gifted to you is a problem? By the way, this should tell y'all this is true across races. This is not just something that happens to black people. It happens to us at a different level, but there's no point in going across the line and getting into a situation that's the same situation for you as a black woman. That's why it's also germane. He was tall and handsome and had the most beautiful voice. And he was done in 10 seconds. I put that lock on my heart, stayed cordial, walked away. Then this is where the bad romantic comedy started. And if I was one of those silly girls, but I'm 43 now, and I always hated the romantic comedy. Two things you can't do for me. Don't take me to a romantic comedy and don't take me to some star-crossed opera because my favorite bass was operated bass, and I find myself going through there and finding those separate arias. But I'm not gonna sit down 4 hours and watch the fluttering. I'm not gonna do it. No, don't do that because I'm not into it at all. But I had gone around the corner to do some shopping, and guess who I bounced into at the store? I knew that he was coming about a second and a half before he got there because again, he's talking to this quote unquote frenemy of his, and he's got this intensive, beautiful, resonant bass voice. I'm like, in my head, I'm like, oh no. Because I'm not going to star in this romantic comedy. However, if I get to run into him enough times going up and down 8th Street, I will take that as occasion. Maybe I was premature. I only gave the man 10 seconds before making up my mind. Maybe I was premature. No, he came around that corner like, oh, sweet, because he couldn't hear me. I wasn't talking to anyone. He saw me and thought, oh, sweet lipstick of life, at last I found you. He started giggling and carrying on. I'm like, oh, no, at your big age, there's nothing wrong with that. It just doesn't fit my default. Because again, I was raised by holy Christian knights, basically. Holy Baptist Christian knights with some Pentecostal thrown in. So now you're not together enough. You up here giggling like a girl, and you still got that friend over there who's mad. We must have bumped into each other because the store's not real big. I'm just trying to get my stuff and get out of there at this point because I'm like, okay, my escape route, I'm going to go this way down to the park and blah, blah, blah. And I know how I'm going to do this. I'm going to be very cordial about it. But maybe if I just run this line, he was in line right behind me. Because when a man's on a pursuit, it just don't work like that. So we're in line talking, and I'm being very cordial. I was like, yeah, do you sing? I'm a contralto, so I always listen for lower male voice. And he's just babbling. I know his name, I know his friend's name, I know every church he sings in, and I've got invitations to go to all of them. And I know that he is a New Thought Christian. Now, I have friends that are New Thought Christians, but an Old Thought Christian and New Thought Christian cannot be married because New Thought borrows a whole lot from the New Age. There is a space. And the New Age, if you really do your mathematics, is really closer to the old mystical and metaphysical religions. There is a space between me and Auntie Love, and we respect the space, but neither of us are going to cross over toward each other because there's some things you can't mix on an intimate basis. Auntie Love and I can't go worship together. That's not going to happen. Well, a New Thought Christian is inclusive of everything but Old Thought Christianity, which is if you do not come to the Lord Jesus Christ as your Savior from sin, you are going to eternal damnation. New Thought is tolerant of everything but that old thought. He was still going. I know his roots. I know what church he's up there talking. He doesn't know the difference between an Episcopalian, a Presbyterian, and a Baptist. Stuff. Well, even Presbyterians are getting more liberal. I'm like, I'm listening to him, but I'm like, okay, I'm socially one of the most conservative people that you will ever meet. And compared to you, I'm a religious conservative also, although not so much as some of the white Episcopalians and Presbyterians that you would meet. I'm not a white evangelical, but my holy Christian knight of a dad is basically a black evangelical. So I'm the daughter of a holy Christian knight who is an old Christian evangelist. I've spent years, the church my father co-founded, every day when you walked in, you saw 1 Corinthians 15, 3 and 4 on the wall. I had that memorized more or less by 5 years old. Almost any of my Sunday school students can tell you that. So while I'm not damning this man for being a New Thought Christian, it's not my job. I also know as carried away as he was, I'm not going to lead him down a road that we can't go down. He did not fit my default. And brothers, I will have you know, even as a woman who will not marry into a default culture where too many of you are okay trying to lead where you're not going and bringing fear, resentment, and problems and wanting love, joy, and peace back. Even though he's not a part of that culture, even though I suspect that because we are both musicians, we could have had a lot of fun together. I would have had to compromise too much. And I don't care that he was 6'3" at least. Tall, handsome, bass voice. Y'all. I had that voice in my ears every day and white. And see, I found out where he lives. He lives up the hill. Now, I still don't know living in San Francisco whether Alfred's really a friend, though. In San Francisco, you kind of have to wonder about that. I know the demographics of that neighborhood up the hill from me, and I know about the preponderance of men to women up there. I walk around that hill. I've studied that area. And I told him straight up, very gently, well, gentlemen, I got to finish my walk, so I'm going to go down the hill. But it was so nice to meet you, and I'll see you around the area. I was perfectly cordial as I departed. He's going up. I'm going down. I could have gotten back to ladies. I probably could have gotten back to the crib that day. And that's the second time that's happened because I told you about that 63-year-old man, Silver Fox, who wanted to show me the house that he had already bought his other wife. Like he got more to spare and he's still able to walk 4 miles to the sunset anytime he wanted to do whatever he wanted to do. That's the second time somebody from, actually the third, there's somebody from that hill because they see what I'm doing and they see what I'm capable of doing. Now, when I want to, I kind of casually go, well, casually, that's a but it doesn't kill me. If I want to go up there for lunch, I go up there for lunch. See, when you get to the top of that hill, you eat what you darn well please, because you still got to climb back down. Now, I will tell you this: as a large-bodied woman who does significant hiking now, I tell you what though, try to do fast food, different video, but you better make sure you get your vitamins. Your body it will flip out. Your muscles will flip, so you got to make sure that you have all that you need. But point I'm making here, it was not about his height. He passed the height requirement. It was not about, okay, he was good looking. Probably not standard, probably not what people are looking for on Instagram. Good looking, solid, heavy, Germanic type look. And I like an older man because my father's an older man. Right age, at the edge of the right age, at 55, but just fine. And white with money, probably. Living in a very wealthy neighborhood, going up to that very wealthy neighborhood. In fact, I probably know what apartment building he lives in up there if he doesn't have a house outright. I know about those things. Gone in 10 seconds. Because as Kiana Footman said, he doesn't fit my default. See, as a woman, even very young, having lost that friendship with a boy I grew up with, I don't know if that would have ripened into romance over time. I'll never know now. I am not, nor have I ever been, a commodity to be shaped and formed into what some man wants. I would never fit. I have too much personality. I am my father and my mother's daughter. I watched them because they were starting out in their marriage. I was their firstborn child. I watched them attempt to see how far they could change each other. I can tell you, we almost 44 years down the line. No, now they've grown into each other. But no, those two personalities, no, you get what you get. And so, as the firstborn child of those two, and my sister's pretty much the same way. No, we are Texan roots. You get what you get. And in getting what you get, we may change because we're doing work to change, but you are over there. Now, I don't think you're going to do that. And so, the whole idea that Black women are the last slaves, that we are just available to be formed in what some man may want, that's going to get you blessed, blocked, and changed a lot. I have no idea what Mr. Summer of Love, we're on Haight Street. If y'all know history of San Francisco, you know. I have no idea what Sweet Mysteries of Life Mr. Summer of Love was thinking about. But I knew that he wasn't a fit. And I refused to lead him on. And this is why he has one of the very few, but like I said, this is why I'm hard single, because I'm not a romantic at heart. I love deeply. And I find a number of different, I'm thinking back over this number of years. My father is short and solid. Sergeant Love is tall and thin. And Frank was tall and solid. Uh, I don't discriminate based on body types. They're all, um, they're all different body types. I don't distinguish. There's some things I like better than others, but I don't, I do not discriminate. I, I, I like men in terms of being physically attracted. I don't have a problem with that, but I'm not run by that. I can't afford it. I mentioned that I live in San Francisco. People being run into the grave. Perhaps you've heard of it, getting a home in Virginia. HIV. That was raging when I was here. When I came here, people were dying on the street of it. When I came here, a hospice bought the parsonage in our church next door. We got to watch that every week. And it was years before we started ministering to the people at the hospice. Because everybody was scared, and for good reason. When I came here, the culture I was in was doing things like pushing young men into young women trying to get somebody married. And that was the church culture. We're not going to even talk about the things outside, the crack, the prostitution, all this other stuff that was going on at the time that I was between, let's say, ages 1 and 10 in my neighborhood. I have had to be particular, and I will remain so. Because of Kiana Footman, Level Up Single Mom, I was able Wednesday, today's Saturday, so Thursday and Friday to really be able to look at what is my default and to really be able to look back over my life since age 16 so that from here on out, those 10-second blocks are going to be 5-second blocks, y'all. No, you actually do have to get some data. And because that man was just running his mouth and his friend could not keep his resentment, poor little baritone, I made sure to compliment him too. The two of them together, you could have stood them on a street corner as a bass and a baritone, and they would have been out singing. And the two of them would have made all the money that they wanted. They would have had all the women that they wanted. They could have, in the way the parlance goes, they could have had their choice. You that age, you just that. Nothing wrong with that. Some people are more. I talk a lot myself, but I'm particular in how I communicate and what I communicate. I know much more about him than he does about me. And I do not keep people around me that are downing me in my gifts while I'm expressing them. At 55. And see, that's the other thing. When you marry a man, you also marry his circle of people. If he's 55, he probably does not have as many people that are parents as he does the friends that he has chosen. One thing you must learn not to do, ladies, take a man's friends for who they are. The musician, that's basically why I blocked him out. Because I realized, and having, coming back a few years later and looking at what that deck of people is doing, yep, that was the right decision. I don't want any children of mine raised around any of them. And they're not necessarily bad men per se, as bad black men go, but not strong enough for me to be happy that my son would be influenced by his own father, a man of integrity. But some of those friends of his, no way. And even he, because he loved them, covered for some of the foolery. Now, what ended up happening was the friend who was involved in the foolery did get expelled from the group eventually. But all those years spent covering for and therefore disadvantaging black women. And see, that really could have blown up because friend who was the fool also tried to get at me for a minute. Y'all think about the disaster that could have been. And I want to leave you with that idea. See, there's reasons. There's reasons that I resort to this early. I left that whole circle of people and it collapsed. There's reasons that I resort to this early. I'm getting the heck up out of Dodge. There's reasons that I'll block a man out in 10 seconds because I realize he can't lead me anywhere I want to go, and I'm not going to lead him on because he's tall, handsome, white, beautiful voice, and may have something that I want. There is nothing in this world for which I am desperate enough to compromise like that in order to get something from somebody. I honestly kind of look back at how people do stuff in terms of love and marriage, and I should say lust. And I'm like, how can you compromise yourself like that? Have you not seen enough? Have you not read enough? But people think it won't happen to me. Yeah, it will happen to me. And the reason it'll happen to me is because I know better. And the Bible is very clear. My servant, which knoweth to do my will, and doeth it not, shall be beaten with many stripes. So now, instead of all that, now I'm gonna block foolery out of my life. I'm not going down a road like that. Nope, there's nothing that I need in this world. Such that I would put myself. See, that's the other thing. Different between a new thought Christian and an old thought Christian. I look at that Bible, and it's not optional for me. I know how to divide it. Everything given to the ancient Jews is not given to me. But I fear God. So if he says, yeah, you knew what to do there and you didn't do it, you chose to do something else because you want to play God for a minute. Okay, now I got to get after you. I've read enough history to know that. People have conversations about, well, all these people said they were Christians, but they did this and that, and Jesus didn't stop them. Nah, you got to read a little bit deeper. Maybe Jesus didn't do what you would have wanted done, but if you keep on reading, got to read a little bit deeper because Jesus is not always dealing with you in a way that is going to satisfy public readers of the record. But when he comes to deal with you, please believe that he does. And since I know that, look, y'all, any of you, whether you're Christian, old thought, new thought, or you've heard the story about Jesus going to the temple and the money changers, because like I said, they're out there selling out their people for whatever. And y'all know what he did. He took a whip, turned over the table. Do you think I want that in my life? This is why I'm hard saying it's going to be very, very difficult to get out of that position. This is why it can take me seconds to a minute. Now, I'll make the decision in 10 seconds. I gave him 10 minutes. Because what I'm not trying to do is get involved with someone, get led around by my own desires and feelings, and get led right into Jesus having to come correct all that. Nope. And as a Black woman, looking at American men, period, no matter what their color is, there is an assumption that we are just, no matter how old, are just clay to be fit into whatever fantasies they have. So if you're at a point that you're too weak to even take a compliment without turning into a blithering idiot. By the way, I had my mask on. He couldn't even see all of me. Now my shape has changed. I'm still large, but yeah, I've got that traditional African woman shape. Fine. And of course, I had all my love products. Shout out to Auntie Love and her skincare line. I'll put it in the description. So there are probably some other exigencies going on, granted, but it's just like, sir, at 55, an intentional man is not like this. At 55-ish, you ought to be secure enough in yourself to be able to smile and start a conversation and not turn to a blathering idiot. At 55, you do not need to have a circle of people around you that the minute you get a compliment are trying to go back into middle school mean girl behavior as a man of comparable age and attempt to discourage women from complimenting you on what is gifted to you by God Himself. Nope, can't do it. Because as Kiana Putman said, I gotta stay in my default. Auntie Love has this on one of her wallpapers. I love the Black woman that I am because I fought to become her. Now, if I quoted that wrong, y'all saw live. I had Kiana, you saw live. They will correct me. I may not have it just right, but I understand both of those sentiments. Does it please me to have to do a 10-second block? No. But consider this, ladies and gentlemen, there are 8 billion people in the world, and at any one time, if you were going to live a quiet, peaceful, purposeful life, you know how many mates you can have of a romantic marital nature at one time? Well, polygamy. No, y'all failing that too, because in the United States you can't do it legally. All those little kids who don't have a father out there will tell you that they're failing. You're failing on that. One. And in 4 billion males on this planet, yeah, I'm gonna have to do a lot. of 10-second blocks. And does that bother me? Because that also says that at 43, if I miss that one person, which I cannot, because if God intends for a Christian to be married, he calls that person to marriage. But if I did, how many people would I have missed in a lifespan of, well, if I take my parents' average, they're both still alive and mid 50s and mid 70s and late 80s. If I take the average, let's say I make the average of African American woman's extended lifespan 81. If I miss only one person at 81 because I 10-second blocked when I got those red flags, I missed one person. And I would have stayed in my peace, my default. I would have walked in what I already knew at 16 and refused to be pushed into a marriage, literally pushed. I did not connect myself to a culture that is selling death and excusing death on the backs of Black women. And again, we can talk about Black culture, which is where it started for me, but this is becoming quite common um, in American men's thinking about Black women. It's been quite common. Our foremothers were brought here to hold up America. That's it. And I don't care whether you talk about North America or South America. At one time, there was slavery from as high up in the Canadian Shield as it was feasible to do that, all the way down to the tip of Tierra del Fuego, as far down as it was feasible to do that. So I said what I meant to say, but I'm opting out of it. No. And I tell you these stories, ladies, so that you know that you can. If you get those first two red flags, don't stay around. Does not matter how tall, handsome, moneyed, or color. Don't do it. Lead yourself to freedom. If he's not going anywhere that you want to go, and I'm not just talking about money and experiences and status, this man poured out his whole soul. I know everything he believes. I know where he sings. I know what he does. I know his desperation for recognition. He does have an operatic level voice, and he is definitely past the age where that's generally going to be a possibility for him. Could I get him there as a composer? Probably. But is that where I'm going? Do I need another project, particularly that old with a friend like that? I tell you this story, ladies, so that you can lead yourselves to freedom. And do not be put into chains and bondage based on his color, his level of income. If a man goes through the trouble of telling you who he is that extensively in 10 minutes, and there are one, two, three things in there that are not a match, do 10-minute block. Get some practice. I've been practicing for 27 years. Get some practice. Hear the brother out for 10, 20 minutes. And all the brother for another mother for 10, 20 minutes. If anything in there, you get them red flags, be cordial and go. All right. Y'all have a good day now. Uh, we will be back. There's a bunch of more serious topics that I want to talk about, but I'm also taking care of pretty serious business this week. And so I haven't been able to do as many. I pre-recorded a lot of recordings this week because of that, but I've really had to take care of some stuff, and I got to really take care of some stuff today. So we'll see if we get On the Climb snuck in there somewhere. We might, if it does not start raining on us again before the mid-afternoon, but we'll see what happens. Y'all have a good day now and enjoy your weekend. Bye.